What would it feel like to be truly, deeply happy, regardless of your circumstances? Did you know that happiness is a choice and not a result? That you can create your life on purpose? Join us now to learn more. This is the Time to Rise and Thrive radio show. And here's your host, mindset coach, and facilitator of change, Jackie Mott.
Hello and welcome. Welcome to Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network. I am your host, Jackie Mott, mindset and empowerment expert. Today, our show is called Speak Your Truth, Even When It's Hard. Right? So we're going to be talking about this thing and how to do it. How do you do it? Because it's so very important for us to be honest. And we're going to dig into the why and the how as we go into today's show. I've got just a brief thing that I would like to share with you right now because it's very exciting. So Inspired Choices Network has a mobile app. They have also created so much exposure, so many things for us as hosts and for you as listeners. So you can find now Inspired Choices Network on your favorite on-demand podcast platform, the phone app, Apple TV, Google TV, Amazon Fire TV, LG and Samsung smart TVs, or on your smart TV under Binge Networks. Over 450 platforms. We are literally everywhere. So my show, any number of other shows, there's some pretty great people on this network. I'm just telling you, sometimes I love hearing what they have to say. So just search Inspired Choices Network on whatever it is that you like to listen to and see, you'll be able to find us. You can also, of course, find us on inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. But I just wanted to share that with you because she keeps on ramping this thing up and it's just getting better and better and better. So there you go. There's your little plug for Inspired Choices Network. And now let's get into this. So what do we do on Time to Rise and Thrive? Every Friday at 1 p.m., I am here with you and we're talking about different things like mindset, like empowerment, like creating the life that you desire and you deserve, recognizing your own unique beauty, value, and contribution. And we do this all inside sort of the framework of this thing that I call subliminal soundtrack. So what that is, really quickly before we get into things, just in case you're new to the show and you've never heard me say that before, subliminal soundtrack is this loop of messages that plays in the back of our minds all day, every day. It's made up of little bits of information that we've picked up throughout the course of our lives. So every conversation you've had, every lesson you've learned, every relationship, every single experience has given you little bits of information that you have picked up and you have stored back there on that subliminal soundtrack. We use that information to create our belief systems. So what does it mean to love or be loved? What does it mean to be successful or unsuccessful? What does it mean to have money, not have money? Gender, like everything is based on that information that is floating around and playing on that loop every single minute of every single day. Two very important things that we need to understand about the subliminal soundtrack. The first is what we believe to be true will be true for us, even if it's based on completely incorrect information. The second is that we create our circumstances to support the belief systems that we carry. So whenever you are in a position where your life is not really kind of going in the direction that you might like it to go, or where you've done everything right, and it's still not working out, you're not breaking through, you're not getting that result that you are working toward, very often there's something going on back there. And I'm going to share with you that there's a whole bunch of information coming out in the next little while. So find me on Facebook at Jackie Mott Mindset and Empowerment Expert. That's my page. Find it, follow it, like it, all of whatever you do with that kind of stuff. And keep your eyes open because we're going to be having all kinds of free masterclasses coming up in the very near future that will help you understand this stuff and even help you to break free of some of that stuff that might be holding you back. So on today's show, here's what we're talking about. We know on some level that we're supposed to be honest, right? Yeah, but it can be hard, can't it? especially if we're in a position that we are concerned that, maybe we're going to hurt someone's feelings, or maybe we're going to cause harm to a situation or make a situation more difficult than it already feels like it is. Do you understand what I'm talking about? When we're in that position, it's still very important for us to speak our truth. And I'm going to share with you why. It can be even more damaging, more difficult circumstances when we don't actually do that. Do you understand? Have you ever been in that kind of a position where you went, oh man, I wish I'd said something before? It's very important for us to speak our truth. And again, as we go through the show, we are going to really dig into the why, the how, the when, even of this thing. So, how this relates to our subliminal soundtrack is basically this: if you believe that it would hurt people, especially the people that you care about, for you to speak your truth, or that by doing so, you may cause yourself difficult circumstances or more difficult circumstances, you're likely going to push your truth aside, or you're going to shove it down. And we know that those things are not good for us. They're not good for our bodies. They're not good for our spirits or our souls, or whatever language works for you. They're not good for us to do. Okay. It can cause some pretty serious heart's one of them, health problems when we continually are pushing ourselves down, or ignoring our truth, or not acknowledging. Okay, so that's the first thing. But let's look at it from the flip side. The flip side, good Lord, it's going to be one of those shows, Christine. I'm tripping over my tongue already. All right. So if you look at this from the flip side, if you believe that speaking your truth is actually honoring of yourself and others, especially those people who matter most to you, you can actually create stronger, more healthy, trusting relationships with the people who matter with you. Did you know that? So let's get into this. What is this thing all about? So we're going to start with this conditioning piece. So remember, our subliminal soundtrack, right? We've all got these conditioning pieces, and things have happened to everyone, right? So what if that conditioning has told you that by speaking your truth, you can expect an angry response, or somebody to be mean or cruel, or right? Has it ever happened? I think it's probably happened to everybody. Has it ever happened to you? So if that has been our conditioning, especially when we're very, very small, and even more so when there's been a trauma attached to that thing, it can be very difficult for us to find that within ourselves, because it's fear. Fear can paralyze us until and unless we begin to understand what is behind that thing and start to shift it around. Okay. So that's one of the things. It can also, like, maybe we're afraid that it could be like a loss of relationship. Have you ever spoken your truth to someone who mattered to you? Maybe a friend, maybe a romantic partner, anything, and had them decide that that didn't work for them, so they walked away? Have you ever been in a position where you have spoken your truth in a job setting and found out that you no longer had a job? So it's true. It's absolutely true that there can sometimes be difficult consequences or circumstances that are created when we speak our truth. Absolutely. And it's so important for us to do it anyway, because the consequences of not doing those things, oh my God, it can build all kinds of resentment. It can build all kinds of ugly stuff. And one of the things that I'm going to ask you to consider right now, as we are going through the show today, is, do you want relationships with people with whom you cannot be truthful? Do you want relationships with people with whom you can't be honest? Do you want your close relationships to be places where you have to hide yourself and feel like you need to protect yourself? These are things that we have to really think about, because if you don't want those things, then it's going to require you to step up. And if you do want those things, then I would really love for you to reach out and for us to have a conversation, because those aren't healthy. Those aren't healthy dynamics, and they will not lead you to that stability or that place of really feeling valued and loved by the people that you surround yourself with. It's very important to have our tribe of people who see us and value us exactly as we are right now. But we cannot get there. We cannot get there unless and until we are willing to be straight with them and also with ourselves. Okay, so we're going to dig more into that as we go into the next segment of the show, but we're not quite there yet. What I want to say right now, we need to be a little bit discerning about this thing, right? And how we do that is, first and foremost, I'm going to share with you a quote that I absolutely love. It is from Bernard Meltzer. He says, before you speak, ask yourself, is what you are going to say true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? Is it helpful? If the answer is no, maybe what you are about to say should be left unsaid. Okay. So when we speak our truth, we do that for a reason. I'm not going to go into the grocery store and tell the person who's checking me out that her hair's a mess. Like, what would be the point? I mean, it may well be true, but what would be the point? Do you see what I'm saying? So it's not necessary for us to always speak what's on our mind. Okay. And it doesn't make you a dishonest person to just not share everything. Some things aren't helpful. Some things aren't necessary. Right. I'll share with you a really quick story. And this is where it can be really wonderful. I was at Costco a few weeks ago, and there's this lady that's always there, the ones that check your receipt when you're leaving. And she's always there, and she's always got this beautiful smile on her face. And so she checked my receipt. I started to walk away, and something made me stop for a second. And I turned around and I said to her, I just need to say to you, I am so grateful for the smile that you share with me when I go through here. It makes my day to see that beautiful smile when I'm coming through. And she actually stopped, and you could see that she had choked up a little bit. She stopped what she was doing. She stepped to where I had moved to just for a second and said, thank you. She said, I have had the worst day, and you have no idea how much I needed to hear that. Okay. So, it was absolutely true. And it was just something that I felt called to do in that moment. Having said that, if she looked like she was having that kind of a day, it would not have been a kindness for me to have pointed that out to her, would it? Right. So this is the thing that we have to acknowledge. Is it helpful? Is it a contribution to the other party? And does it even matter? In our close relationships, it absolutely 100% does. But also, if some little one, like maybe your child or your grandchild or your niece or nephew or whatever, if they did something for you, say they made you a cup of tea, or they made you a gift, or they drew you a picture, would you tell them that the tea tasted poor or awful, or that they had used too much sugar in whatever they had given you to eat, or maybe they put too much peanut butter on the toast? Would you do that? Would you tell them that their picture looked awful? So it's also important when we're doing this discerning piece to be conscious of the intention behind that thing. If you've got a little one or anyone else for that matter, okay, who's gone to an effort to do something nice for you, acknowledge that. You don't have to say that the thing tasted a certain way unless it's important. Okay. Like maybe we need to make sure that they don't put something, like chemical into the food or something like that. Okay. So it may be important to point that out. Having said that, look at the intention behind it. Anytime somebody has made an effort, has, taken that time to think about us and do something because they care about us, we don't have to acknowledge the thing. We can, and maybe we should, because that's a really kind thing to do. But even if it's something like, sometimes you get a present from somebody and you're like, oh, don't make it be about the thing. Make it be about that they thought about you, that they took time out of their life, or maybe they spent money or whatever it was. Acknowledge that. Okay. You're not lying. And I know people call it little white lies or whatever. Just acknowledge that they did something nice for you. Okay. And leave it at that. Thank you so much. I so appreciate that you thought about me. Right. Just do that. Acknowledging that, and the gratitude and all of that kind of stuff. Just acknowledge that. Okay. You don't have to point out that, wow, that's the wrong size, or, oh, I really hate that color. You don't have to do that. You don't have to do that. Would it be honest? Maybe. And would it be helpful? No. Would it be kind? No. Right. So we're going to focus on those four things. Is it helpful? Is it kind? Is it true? And what was the other one? Is it necessary? Okay. So those are the kinds of things, or those are the things that we're going to be focusing on as we talk about speaking our truth. Right now, I have to take us to our first break. So you're with me on Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network. And I am your host, Jackie Mott. Stick with us for just a moment. We will be right back.
What do you tell yourself when you're not listening? This question came to Jackie Mott when she was trying to find peace and purpose in the wake of tragedy. She began to understand that a lot of her pain and choices had been the result of how she perceived herself and her place in the world. And she set about creating a new subliminal soundtrack that would support her in creating a life of abundance, joy, and fulfillment. To learn more about how she did that and how you can do the same, join Jackie on her radio show, Time to Rise and Thrive, every Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Central, 11 a.m. Mountain, and 10 a.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
Are you a subject matter expert? Are you here to share your expertise with an audience waiting to hear from you in only the way you can deliver? Are you ready to have your voice amplified across the airwaves? Inspired Choices Network has a global radio platform streaming to millions of people across the world. Professionally produced and supported by an accomplished team every step of the way, you can broadcast from anywhere in the world, knowing your voice matters, and we ensure it is delivered with ease and efficiency. Eager to hear your message, the world awaits. Contact us today to become an Inspired Choices Network radio host. Email become a host at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com.
This is the Time to Rise and Thrive show with mindset coach and facilitator of change, Jackie Mott. To participate in the program, join our live studio audience in our chat room at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. For more information, visit phoenixcoach.ca, where you can follow Phoenix Coaching online. Now, back to the program.
Hello and welcome back to Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network. I am your host, Jackie Mott. Today we are talking about speak your truth even when it's hard, why it's so important to do that, and how to do it. How to do it in a way that is honoring of you and of whoever else may be involved in the situation. So we're just gonna get real. Sometimes it can be really hard. Sometimes this comes from a place of love. I don't want to cause harm to the people I care about. Okay, let me correct that. I don't want to cause harm to anybody. That's my truth. Now, I know that there are other people who feel differently, and that's okay. That's okay. But that's my truth. So in my experience, and those things that I mentioned, I have received harsh words. I have received, loss of people that mattered in my life. I have received all of those things that many of us do that causes that fear. So it can be really, really hard. And it's so very important. So I'm going to ask you to just think about a time when you felt like you'd been deceived. Think about a time when, and this could be an outright lie, or it could be a lack of information. Okay. Think about that for just a second. How did you feel? some of the more common things are, anger, feelings of betrayal or hurt. What about trust? How is trust impacted when the people, especially those close to us, have said things that are untrue or not told us what maybe they should have told us to help us understand the circumstances? Because don't we kind of go through life based on the information that we have? Right. So when we don't share, especially in the important circumstances, when we don't share our truth, it can impact those relationships. And it doesn't have to be any specific type. I mean, working relationships, right? If I'm not straight with my colleagues or my boss or whomever it may be, if I'm not straight with them about certain factors, they're think about this for a second. Have you ever worked with somebody who had stuff going on in their lives and couldn't show up? Or they'd show up, but they couldn't do the work, or they claimed that they knew how to do things, and then they get in there and they don't know how to do them, and it makes a mess. And now you've got to jump in and someone else is right. So we need to be straight and honest and upfront. What happens when we do share our truth, especially when it's hard? Especially when it's hard. That is actually one of those trust building moments. If I know I'm change that wording, the people that I know will tell me the truth, even when it isn't an easy thing for them to do, are the people I trust the most. I think I've shared with you before on the show many times. I have this sort of perception of tribe that goes something like this. I perceive there to be sort of 3 circles in my tribe. There are the ones that are closest to me, and they are my ride or die people. Okay. They are the people that I count on, that I trust, that I know will be there. And I know that because they've shown me that. I know that because they've told me the truth when things are hard. Okay. Then there's a second group, and they're, the people that they're still close, but they don't get quite as intimate a version of Jackie as the ones who are right next to me. Okay. So they're still close, and there's still that trust factor there. And then there's the third, and the third circle is just the people that I know. And I don't really have a whole lot of expectation from them, and I don't feel a whole lot of obligation to them. And it sort of that grows the closer that you get to me. I have a closer expectation of the people that I consider my ride or die, my inner circle people, than I do of anybody else. And I would feel more obligated to those people than anyone else. Okay. So this is why it's so important, because the other piece of this is that people can move. They can move. So if I have brought somebody into my inner circle that breaks my trust, they're not staying there. They're not staying there, and they may find their way back in time, but they're not staying there. And generally, in all honesty, generally the people that are closest to me who break my trust are no longer in any of those circles. Okay. And this is because I honor myself. It's because I honor myself and I love myself, and I understand that I deserve to be treated with respect and all of that kind of stuff. Okay. So when we have those conversations, those more difficult conversations where we express how we're feeling, where we express things that may not be easy to say, that allows people to come closer. Okay. That builds trust. It allows people to feel valued and valuable to you, important to you, because why would you bother saying those things if they didn't matter, right? We all have like that radar or whatever you want to call it, where we can sense that people are honest or they're not being honest. We can sense, even maybe we don't know that they're being dishonest, but someone just feels out of whack, right? So we know on some level those people that are always straight with us, or the people that we need to be like just a little bit, we need to pay attention, right? We need to pay attention to what's going on. So again, coming back to this, the trust is a huge factor. We don't want to make people feel betrayed by us, do we? We don't want to inflict the kind of pain on, well, especially not our people, that comes along with those feelings of betrayal. So now we're going to talk about a different side of this. Okay. So it's not as much about the relationship as it is about the factors of whatever is happening. So I want you to perceive just for a second, we'll go back to that job idea. Okay. Now I have my own business. I've been self-employed for a long time. I've also acted as a consultant for a number of clients or businesses that I've worked with. And sometimes it's me that has had to step in and have these difficult conversations with employees. And what I want you to really think about, okay, is people tend to, when we're talking about financial stuff, and that's what we're talking about right now, when we start to talk about finances, people tend to plan based on the information they have, right? So if you're in a position where you believe that you have a secure job and things really aren't working out very well, you're probably going to start to use that information that you have. Okay. You don't know that things aren't working out very well yet. You think you're doing a great job. Maybe people are blowing sunshine up your butt, right? Who knows? These things happen. But you'll make your plans and often financial commitments based on whatever you expect that income to be, right? So would you, if you were that person, would you prefer to know sooner or later? Would you prefer to know before you went and got a mortgage on a bigger house that you really can't afford without that income? Or would you prefer that people don't really be straight with you? It's difficult to do, but especially where finances or close relationships are on the line, it is absolutely essential. I'm going to do something that I don't often do on the show. I'm going to share with you something that happened as a result of my marriage ending. And I don't usually talk about this, but it so perfectly illustrates this point. So we were married for a very long time. We were together for 27 years. And toward the end of it, I had no idea that he wasn't happy. I had no idea. Things were going along. They were going along. We were doing our thing. I was making my plans. I was, doing whatever I was doing in the context of that marriage, right? And making business decisions, making financial decisions, making commitments to people and whatever, under the assumption that things were just going to continue going along. It wasn't until after that I found out that he hadn't been happy for a very long time. And that's okay. I would have appreciated if I'd known sooner, because not only was the loss of the marriage, emotionally devastating, not only was there the grief and the all of the emotional stuff, but it was also financially devastating, because I was basing those financial commitments and decisions on the circumstances that I believed I had. And when the marriage ended and the household income dropped significantly, I wasn't in good shape. I wasn't in good shape. And that was one of the things, in all honesty, that was most upsetting to me. There were a number of things, but that was one of the things that was most upsetting, was that lack of honesty, that lack of truth had caused me to make decisions that were not wise, and I would not have made had it not been for what I believe to be true. Okay. So remember, what we believe to be true will be true for us, even if it's based on completely incorrect information. That is a beautiful example of how that works. We believe it to be true, so we act accordingly. We do whatever we do based on that information. And then when we find out that we were incorrect, it is not fun. It is, and you don't feel like someone's been kind, do you? Right. Right. So sometimes having those difficult conversations, and I'm going to go further than that. I'm going to say almost always having those difficult conversations causes less harm than not. Okay. So it's very, very important. We also talked about the health consequences that can happen for people who are, sort of shoving down their feelings and not doing what they should do in order to honor themselves. So that's a perfect segue into our next segment. So when we come back from our break, we are going to talk about the how to do this in a way that is honoring of ourselves first and of everyone else wherever possible in the situation, because sometimes the how can make it a little bit easier to do the thing. All right. So if you haven't already, I'm going to encourage you to grab yourself a pen and paper. And if you're not in a position to do so, if you're driving, please don't stop driving or don't try to take notes while you're driving. Grab that pen and paper. And if you can't, go find us on one of the on-demand channels or on inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. And you can go back and replay this thing and hear these things all over again. So we're going to head to our break. When we come back, we're going to talk more about this Speak Your Truth. You're with me on Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network. I'm your host, Jackie Mott. Stick with us for just a moment. We will be right back.
What do you tell yourself when you're not listening? This question came to Jackie Mott when she was trying to find peace and purpose in the wake of tragedy. She began to understand that a lot of her pain and choices had been the result of how she perceived herself and her place in the world. And she set about creating a new subliminal soundtrack that would support her in creating a life of abundance, joy, and fulfillment. To learn more about how she did that and how you can do the same, join Jackie on her radio show, Time to Rise and Thrive, every Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Central, 11 a.m. Mountain, and 10 a.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
What do you tell yourself when you're not listening? Our subliminal soundtrack plays in the back of our minds 24/7. It's filled with everything we've ever learned about money, relationships, body, and sexuality, about every single aspect of our lives. If you don't have what you desire, the Subliminal Soundtrack Reset program may be the very key to changing it all. In this 8-week program, designed by Jackie Mott, you'll learn to replace messages that stop your desires with new ones that not only support you in creating what you truly desire, but expand your life to higher levels of joy and pleasure. Go to phoenixcoach.ca today to sign up and begin creating your life on purpose.
How wonderful would it be to carry your favorite Inspired Choices Network host with you throughout your day? Well, now you can. Inspired Choices Network now has its very own mobile app. Our free app offers live streaming shows, along with thousands of podcasts and TV episodes. Our shows cover a wide variety of topics. Whether you're waking up with us, carrying us through the day, and taking us to bed with you, we're always here for you to enjoy. We're easy to find. Just search for Inspired Choices Network in the Apple App Store or Google Play Store.
This is the Time to Rise and Thrive show with mindset coach and facilitator of change, Jackie Mott. To participate in the program, join our live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. For more information, visit phoenixcoach.ca, where you can follow Phoenix Coaching online. Now, back to the program.
Hello and welcome back to Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network. I am your host, Jackie Mott. Today we are talking about speak your truth even when it's hard. Why is it so important? And how can we do this to do our very best to be honoring of anybody that's going to be impacted in the situation? So I just want to share with you a couple of very exciting things that have been going on in my world. So first and foremost, Believe All Things Are Possible is the book. It's written, it's with the publisher, it's being printed, it's on its way. We are going to have, I don't even know exactly how to word this. We're going to have it available on Amazon on like Kindle and in the book form. If you're like me, like Kindle's great, and it's usually a lot cheaper. And I am a person who loves a book. I don't really like the electronic. So if you're somebody like me, you can get the book. If you're somebody who prefers the Kindle version, it will be there. And that's going to be launching in the very near future. I believe that the launch date is somewhere around, oh geez, it's in the last couple of weeks of November, I believe, is when we're looking at that. Go to jackiemott.com and download a free copy of the ebook that I wrote, which is called Five Steps to Create a Mindset Wired for Success. If you go there, then you're going to get on the email list. And when things happen, you're going to see the announcements. Also, you can find me again on Facebook at Jackie Mott Mindset and Empowerment Expert. Those are the two best places to find information about what's going on. We have started running monthly mindset masterclasses, which is very exciting. This has been something I've been thinking about for a couple of years. It is one session, first Monday of every month, 7 p.m. Eastern. And there are options to purchase one class or to join a subscription, which of course is less expensive. So you can find all of that information on Facebook or by going and downloading that book on jackiemott.com. So that's what I've got for you. Oh my God, so exciting. Oh, and 90-day breakthrough boot camp. Yay. Lots of really exciting stuff. So find me, get some information on that stuff, and we'll see if we can't help you to start to break through some of these things that are going on in the back of your mind and get to that place where you're living the life you desire and deserve. Would that be nice? Right? Yeah. Okay. Here's your tips. Are you ready? You got your pen and paper? First thing, it is always very important to take the time before you have the conversation to figure out what it is that you need to say and what's behind it. So evaluate this thing. Go back to that Bernard Meltzer quote. Is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? And is it helpful? Okay. So whatever it is that you feel the need to say, make sure that it at least is one of those things. Okay. Is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? And is it helpful? Okay. If it's not, then you really need to think about what your motives are on whether or not to say that. So evaluate first. Second thing, get a really clear understanding of what it is that if it's a problem, whatever it is, okay, get a really clear understanding of what that is and what it is that you need to say about it. Okay. Is it something like, and this happens all the time. People say things or do things with one intention, but on the other end, it's interpreted in a different way. Right. So is it something where you're really upset because somebody said something? Is it something that maybe you have misunderstood or misinterpreted? Or is it something that is absolutely clear that it was meant to hurt or offend? What is it? Okay. So get really clear on what that is. Now, 3. Now we're getting into the actual how of doing this. How can you say it in a way that honors both parties or all parties if there are more than one or more than 2 people involved? If it's at all possible, don't do this when your emotions are high. Don't do it when your emotions are high, because that is generally a time when people react more than act. Okay. So do your very best to do this in a time and a place where you are calm, you have your thoughts together, you have things straight. If you need to make some notes, make some notes. Okay. If you need to do that, that's okay. Go ahead and do it. Stick to the facts as much as possible. Okay. So in the case that we just talked about, say somebody has said something that you found offensive or it hurt your feelings or whatever the case may be. If you go to that person and you say, you said, me, what kind of reaction do you think you're gonna get? The immediate thing is the person is going to be like, right? So if you were to say it in a way of, when you said this thing, this is what I heard. Is that what you meant? Like, am I misunderstanding something? If you can do that, so that's one of those techniques when we're having difficult conversations. One of those techniques is to sort of come at it from a place of maybe I've misunderstood, or maybe I didn't hear something the right way. If we come at it from that space and that energy, it very often gives an opportunity to open a dialogue. Okay. So in the case where I've misunderstood, or there's a piece of information that I'm missing or something like that, I don't have the right context, whatever it is, and I come at it from that place, now we can have a dialogue. Now we can have a conversation about, oh my God, I'm so sorry. That's not what I intended. It's not what I meant at all. Right. So if you can frame it in that way, that's a great tip to use. Try to avoid blame as much as possible. Okay. That it's not helpful. It's not helpful. It will, when people talk about getting someone's back up, and when that happens, then we can expect that. That's that. What do you call what I said at the beginning of the show? That like angry response, that hurtful words. You're more likely to get that when you actually kind of engage from that place. So try to avoid blame if at all possible. Responsibility and blame are different, by the way. But try to avoid blame as much as possible. If you are talking about your feelings, it's okay. And it probably is helpful to do so. If you're talking about your feelings, though, try to frame it in a way of, this is how I felt by what happened. Not from a place of, again, this thing. Maybe it's a misunderstanding. Maybe their intention was completely different. Maybe it felt different on your end and they have no idea. Okay. So try not to go to, oh, you're a jerk because you, or like whatever, like put your own words in there, but you understand what I'm saying. So make it specific to how you feel. Now, here we get to number 4. If there is a decision attached to this conversation, be clear about your decision. Okay. Be clear about your decision. So if it's, for example, put me back in that spot where it's my job to have a conversation with an employee who's not performing for my client or for someone who's worked with me, whatever the case may be. If the decision has already been made that your job is no longer your job, then be clear. Okay. Don't let them roll around. I don't know if you've ever had a conversation with somebody where, especially something like losing a job, and that person is just left reeling, like they didn't see it coming. They don't understand. They, so on and so forth. This happened to me at one of the jobs that I had when I was very, very young. And it was devastating. It was absolutely devastating. It came completely out of left field. My understanding was that I was doing a great job, and it wasn't even about what I was doing. There was a change in management, and the manager that was taking over was somebody that I didn't have a very good relationship with. And for that reason, I was no longer going to be welcome to stay there. Whatever, it is what it is. And I couldn't understand what I'd done wrong. So the decision needs to be clear and expressed in a way that that person can grasp it quickly and easily. Because if you're on the receiving end of that, you can go into an emotional space. You can go in because you're thinking about, okay, what does this mean for me? Right. And that's the thing to be conscious of whenever you're having these kinds of conversations. It will be received. What does this mean for me? Okay. So if you've already made your decision, whatever that might be, it could be ending a relationship. It could be, letting somebody go from a job. It could be anything. But if you've already made that decision, let people know and be straight. Don't be wishy-washy and don't make it about, well, I really feel awful about, don't do that. That honors nobody. Okay. Don't do that. That's a very self-serving, I'm sorry, like straight truth. That's a very self-serving position. It's a hard thing to have those conversations. Don't make your emotions. Just don't do it. Okay. Not helpful, not kind. Share your thoughts and your feelings as calmly as possible, wherever that is appropriate. In the place where somebody is being released from a position or a job, your feelings don't matter. Okay, your feelings don't matter. So wherever it's appropriate, share your feelings. Okay, but do so with a couple of things in mind. Try to remain calm. Okay, try to remain calm as much as possible. Focus your attention on the facts and what you need to accomplish in that moment. Okay, if it gets heated, it is absolutely okay to say, you know what, this isn't going in a direction that I want it to, and I need for us to just take a break. So can we come back to this in 5 minutes, half an hour, whatever, or even interrupt and say, you know what, I'm sorry, I really need to use the washroom. I really need to use the washroom. Do you see what I'm saying? Give yourself a moment to catch your breath and calm down, and then come back. If it's at all possible to avoid things getting really heated in the moment, do that. Unless, I don't know. I don't know. Sometimes sometimes makeup sex, right? Sometimes it can be fun. Okay. So just use your own discernment, use your own judgment on this, but try to keep it from getting heated as much as possible. Be as kind as possible, especially if this is someone that you want to keep in your life. Be as kind as possible. So that's what I have for you for the tips. And we are right up against our break and running out of time fast. So you are with me on Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network. I am your host, Jackie Mott. Today, we are talking about speaking your truth, even when it's hard, why it's so important, and how to go about doing that. So stick with us for a moment. When we come back from this break, we are going to wrap up today's conversation. We will be right back.
What do you tell yourself when you're not listening? This question came to Jackie Mott when she was trying to find peace and purpose in the wake of tragedy. She began to understand that a lot of her pain and choices had been the result of how she perceived herself and her place in the world. And she set about creating a new subliminal soundtrack that would support her in creating a life of abundance, joy, and fulfillment. To learn more about how she did that and how you can do the same, join Jackie on her radio show, Time to Rise and Thrive, every Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Central, 11 a.m. Mountain, and 10 a.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
What do you tell yourself when you're not listening? Our subliminal soundtrack plays in the back of our minds 24/7. It's filled with everything we've ever learned about money, relationships, body, and sexuality, about every single aspect of our lives. If you don't have what you desire, the Subliminal Soundtrack Reset program may be the very key to changing it all. In this 8-week program, designed by Jackie Mott, you'll learn to replace messages that stop your desires with new ones that not only support you in creating what you truly desire, but expand your life to higher levels of joy and pleasure. Go to phoenixcoach.ca today to sign up and begin creating your life on purpose.
This is the Time to Rise and Thrive show with mindset coach and facilitator of change, Jackie Mott. To participate in the program, join our live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. For more information, visit phoenixcoach.ca, where you can follow Phoenix Coaching online. Now, back to the program.
Hello and welcome back to our final segment of Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network. I'm your host, Jackie Mott. Today we are talking about speak your truth even when it's hard. Why is it so important, and how can we do that? How can we do that? So I've shared an awful lot of information with you already today, and we're going to kind of recap it now. But just in case you missed it, you can find us on all of your favorite on-demand channels. You can find us on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. And if you are in a position where you'd like to take some notes about some of the stuff that I've shared, just go back and find this episode. Just go back and find it. It's called Speak Truth Even When It's Hard. All right. All of it's there. And while you're there, like, check out some of the other shows, because there've been some really good ones. Just saying, we've had, and some of them are really quite fun. We had one with Junie Moon a couple of weeks ago. Oh my God, that we laughed so much. She's a love coach. She's pretty spicy. I liked it. All right. So here's the thing. Remember that people are allowed to have emotions. Okay. They're allowed to have their feelings about anything. They're allowed to have their feelings. Okay. That doesn't mean that we don't do the things that are right for us, because honoring ourselves is our first priority. Okay. Honoring ourselves is the number one. And we need to be straight with ourselves and others in order to honor ourselves, making decisions that are best for us, not going ahead with things that aren't a good fit for us, not staying in relationships that aren't healthy or happy for us. Okay. If you're not happy, if whatever is going on is not a good fit for you, that's okay. And you are allowed to change your mind. You're allowed to change your circumstances. You're allowed to say that you're not happy. Okay. And don't forget that the other person is also allowed to feel however they feel. Also, their feelings are not your responsibility. They are not your responsibility. So we need to speak our truth even when it's hard and even when it probably is going to hurt to hear. We need to do it always. Okay, that's how we honor ourselves. That's how we treat ourselves with respect. And when we start to live from that place of honoring, loving, and respecting ourselves, things get so much easier. I promise you. I mean, I used to get caught up. This is how I know what I'm talking about. I used to get caught up in so many of these things. And, I mentioned what happened in my marriage. And the truth of the matter is that it wasn't just him. I wasn't planning on going anywhere, but, there were things that I wasn't happy with either, that I kept my mouth shut. Okay. So it's not just him. All right. And now I do things very differently, and it is a lot easier and a lot more happy. All right. So that's it. Honor yourself, honor your truth, speak your truth always, even when it's hard. If these people are important to you, do your very best to be kind in the process, but always follow through and do the thing that is best for you. So we're going to go back really quickly to that Bernard Meltzer quote, because it's so important when we're talking about this subject. Before you speak, ask yourself if what you are going to say is true, kind, necessary, and helpful. If the answer is no, maybe what you are about to say should be left unsaid. We don't always need to speak our truth. Well, didn't I just contradict myself there? We don't always need to speak what's on our mind. How's that? We should always speak our truth, but we don't always need to say what's going on inside our head. Sometimes it's better to live there, and sometimes it's a fleeting thing, right? Sometimes it passes really, really quickly. So once again, you can find me on inspiredchoicesnetwork.com with Time to Rise and Thrive, which again is, we are everywhere. We are everywhere. 450 platforms. I can't even remember what Christine posted that for me earlier in the show. Go back and listen to it again, but Google, Apple TV, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, whatever. iTunes isn't a thing, is it? Whatever it is. iHeartRadio, Spotify, Spreaker, we are everywhere, and you can find us on your TV too. Isn't that exciting? Right. Okay. So go back and find us on inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. Go to jackiemott.com and download that free copy of 5 Steps to Create a Mindset Wired for Success. And you'll get on the mailing list, and you'll get information about all of the free master classes that I'm working on putting out for you right now. Very exciting stuff. We are going to be breaking through 2023. 2023 is the year, my friend. So join us next week. We're back here next week with Celebrate You. Why is it so important to acknowledge and celebrate everything about you? Fridays, 1 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Central, 11 Mountain, 10 Pacific. You will find me here. And we are always talking about some of these really interesting and sometimes difficult subjects. So join us again next week and every other Friday. Thanks so much for being with us on Time to Rise and Thrive on Inspired Choices Network. We'll see you next week.
Thank you for joining us for Time to Rise and Thrive radio show. Jackie Mott will return next Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 12 noon Central, 11 a.m. Mountain, and 10 a.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. We hope you'll join us. Have a fantastic week, and remember, it's your time to rise and thrive.